A Senate bill that will provide billions in aid to Ukraine is being held up in the Republican-controlled House, and the White House is blaming that lack of funding for the fall of a key Ukrainian city. Meanwhile, Russia is richer than ever before. Our Nick Payton Walsh explains why.
Blue, tranquil, a world away from Ukraine's front lines. We headed out to where Russia may be filling its war chest to a record high. Crude oil tankers, sometimes engaged in opaque, secretive transfers. These two under sanctions busting suspicions in the past. The big one from Russia's Black Sea coast, transferring crude to the smaller one, which also came from Russia.
Out here you get a feeling of how hard it is to keep track of all of this. Just transfers occurring out here in the blue expanse. Massive trade of billions of dollars of oil, some of which ends up helping the Kremlin fund its war.
Tens of millions of barrels of crude likely transferred like this last year. And where it ends up, often unclear, which is the point.
That's probably about 60 million barrels that are being transferred in the middle of the ocean purposefully. So you really needed to have a reason, because it's much easier not to do that.
These two have a messy past, said the shipping monitor that led us to them.
The larger tanker that you guys saw was actually owned by a large company that bought a lot of these tankers when Russian sanctions came in, right? And so they've been heavily associated with what we call the dark fleet, which is these tankers that are servicing Russia, Iran, Venezuela, and other sort of sanctions concerns. So the smaller one actually has an interesting history itself. It was once owned by a sanctioned person.
Russia is richer than ever before. Last year's budget was $320 billion. About a third of which spent on its invasion of Ukraine. Sanctions were meant to dent oil paying for war, but instead India has stepped in and is now buying 13 times more Russian crude oil than before the war, worth $37 billion last year, says one estimate exclusively given to CNN. India buying Russian crude isn't sanctioned, but is buying so much Russia might need to dodge some sanctions to ship it all. We asked an artificial intelligence firm, Winwood, to analyse all global shipping last year for direct shipments between Russia and India, and they found a huge 588. A separate analysis by Polestar Global for CNN revealed over 200 other ships that left Russia last year and did a ship-to-ship transfer off the Greek coast to another boat that then went on to India.
Ship-to-ship transfers are done legally, but they're also used as an illicit tactic to evade sanctions, to sort of try and confuse the authorities as to where this oil is coming from and who's buying it at the end of the day.
India says these shipments fuel its economy without raising global prices by competing with the West for Middle Eastern oil. But there's a complication for the West here, as India refines the oil and sells those products on. And the biggest buyer of products from Russian crude last year, according to exclusive new data obtained by CNN, the United States, over $1 billion worth from India. Way more if you add what US allies, also imposing sanctions on Russia, also import.
So we've seen an increase in 2023 of 44% of oil products that are being made from Russian crude oil flowing into those countries that impose sanctions on Russia, such as the US, UK and EU.
But Russia's even on the make from the refining. This Indian port and refinery, Vadanar, sent an estimated $50 million of refined products to the US last year. And guess who owns nearly half of it? Rosneft, the Russian state oil giant enriching the Kremlin. Putin earning money on the crude, probably the shipping, but also the refining and the resale.
Really, you're talking about something which is amazingly lucrative, and therefore the temptation to do that as a person or as a company is absolutely huge for the traders. And they could just make 10, 20, 30, 40 million within 4 or 5 months. I'm not sure there's any other opportunity in the world to do that, and there is. Please let me know what.
An opaque chain of billions, risking Moscow having unlimited funds for its wars. Nick Payton Walsh, CNN, London.